All on the boards right now.
Peace and much love. This is your brother Counterculture, and we riding the ninth wave.
Where you gonna get it like this? Where you gonna get it like this?
Welcome everyone. It is day 23 of the ninth wave. It is the 21st of July, 2017. And we have crossed the sunset threshold, so we are officially in the Valley of the Shadows. And along the hero's journey, with my new chart, with my new path, we find ourselves at stage 12. Tomorrow's gonna begin a new stage, stage 1, but for today we're still in stage 12. And stage 12 is return with the elixir. Now, those of you who may have heard the previous recordings, I've already touched on the return of the elixir. And what I'd like to do, because this is really a study program for me. I'm learning how to effectively modify my ability to study and my ability to learn, while at the same time seeking to honor the gifts that I was born with by reducing the amount of complexity that I have in my life, because this is part of my genetics. In my life as a shadow, being that we're in the shadow frequencies now, I have the tendency to complicate things, whereas the gift would be to simplify things. This way, my insights can be further pushed forward. So this is really a study program for me, but at the same time, I'm sharing it with others. It's almost like I'm in my study and you're all welcome here to see what Counterculture is up to. So I'm not gonna reread Return with the Elixir, because I've already read and touched on that. Now in the future I will be able to go in more depth, but I just wanted to say something about the elixir and what I believe it to be and what it's turning out to be in my life. An elixir can very easily be a potion. It can very easily be a treasure. It can be something. It can actually be something that intoxicates you. And I like the intoxication part, because I'm not talking about intoxication with drugs or liquor. I'm talking about the kind of intoxication that comes from joy, the kind of intoxication that comes from discovery in life, when you open your eyes up to something new. And being that this is the last stage of the hero's journey, it's important that the hero goes into the next cycle with something new, with something that can create enthusiasm in him to be able to continue the journey. And as I mentioned in the previous recording, I've inverted the hero's journey so that we're going through the shadow frequencies now. We're in the Valley of the Shadows, and the elixir, that thing that has been intoxicating me for days, that thought that builds up great enthusiasm in the heart of a warrior, is the idea that I've turned the tables on the shadow. I have turned the tables on the shadow. I have the power in my hands. I have the power in my heart. Because what do I mean by that? Why have I turned the table? How have I turned the table on the shadows? By simply inverting the hero's journey. I created a template in which I would follow along this ninth wave, because the ninth wave, the more I go through the cycles, the more real it becomes for me. In fact, we're here in day 23 and I'm chilling. I'm all right. I'm cool. We're almost down into the depths of midnight, and I don't feel all the problems that I was feeling when I was at the heights of traveling through the realm of the light entities. And yet I had placed the ordeal at midnight, as if the shadow was this great entity that I needed to overcome. That I gave the shadow all of this power to actually convince myself and empower the shadow to believe that it was this greater being. It was this greater entity that I had to find all of this courage. I had to muster up allies. I had to get my weapons ready. And it's not true. My elixir now, and it's got the shadows running. My shadow frequencies is running scared right now. And there was a prediction that this would happen. When I started to study the gene keys, it was said, you know, your shadows, when you start dealing with your shadows, number one, take your time, because when you start facing one, all of the other ones are going to wake up. All of the other shadow frequencies are going to wake up and say, oh, wait, what's going on here? We're not going to lose our power, are we? This brother's not going to uplift himself into the gift and the divine frequencies and forget about us and take away our enjoyment to be able to feed off of him. Well, that's exactly what happened. And the more these shadows would wake up, the more I would fear them. The more I would say, oh man, how am I going to do this? We got to go back down into the... And in all reality, I'm freaking out when I'm in the light. I'm freaking out when I'm in the light because I've empowered this darkness. I've taken that power away now, and that's what my elixir. I have a new idea that I've been working on in my mind. First, I work on things in my mind, and I see how they play out. And that new idea is the idea of the ninth hero. We are now in the ninth wave, and I believe that each wave of creation brings out a hero through that wave, through that frequency, through that consciousness. And so now, as I'm studying the ninth wave, I'm realizing that there's a ninth hero. And that ninth hero is going to be a master of the ninth wave, the high frequencies and the low frequencies. But today I thought to myself, who exactly is that ninth hero? And when I thought about it, when I contemplated, and when I meditated, I said, the ninth hero is really humanity, because the ninth wave of unity consciousness is about unity. The uniting of the entire human family into realizing that it is one organism, and it is that ninth hero. So now I'm traveling along this hero's journey along the ninth wave, and the ninth hero is beginning to manifest himself or herself to me. And so the hero's journey is starting to have a little bit more depth and having a little bit more intoxication. Because now I see that there is a ninth hero and that the shadow has lost a lot of its power. As I mentioned in the previous recording, I've been dealing with shadow frequencies, man, all of my life. So this is nothing new to me. And so empowering the shadow is counterintuitive. So now in the Valley of the Shadows, the hero simply is just going to prepare. The hero is simply going to heed new calls and start preparing even the shadow to make that journey back up into the light. Because I need my shadow to cooperate with me. I need my shadow to walk into that light and not freak out. That way I don't freak out. And I can absorb that light and live amongst that light and live amongst those higher frequencies. Because those higher frequencies, they're pushing us towards unity. And if we have shadows that don't want to unite, that don't want to lose their individuality, that have that great fear of being extinguished, then they're going to cause trouble. And I don't want no trouble. So this go around my elixir that I'm carrying with me is to let the shadow know you are not my nemesis. You're not my arch enemy. And I'm not going to do battle with you. The ordeal is not going to take place with you. The ordeal is going to take place at that higher frequency where I desire to become one with my human family. And beyond that, to become one with the entire universe. Oneness is what we're moving towards. And those who cannot move towards that oneness will begin to feel themselves shattering. The division will begin to hurt. And that's unfortunate. You know, I honestly wish it didn't have to be this way, because I don't want to see pain in any of my human brothers or sisters. But in any case, that is the journey. We are on stage 12. Tomorrow begins stage 1. And this is the return with the elixir. And that is my elixir. Now, because we're here in the shadow frequencies, because we're down here in the Valley of the Shadows, I wanted to start to study a little bit more this shadow, this archetype of the shadow. So we're going to go into the book, The Writer's Journey by Christopher Vogler. And I'm going to read the archetype of the shadow. Shadow, quote, You can't keep a good monster down, unquote. Publicity for Ghost of Frankenstein. The archetype known as the shadow represents the energy of the dark side, the unexpressed, unrealized, or rejected aspects of something. Often it's the home of the suppressed monsters of our inner world. Shadows can be all things we don't like about ourselves, all the dark secrets we can't admit, even to ourselves. The qualities we have renounced and tried to root out still lurk within, operating in the shadow world of the unconscious. The shadow can also shelter positive qualities that are in hiding or that we have rejected for some reason. The negative face of the shadow in stories is projected onto characters called villains, antagonists, or enemies. Villains and enemies are usually dedicated to the death, destruction, or defeat of the hero. Antagonists may not be quite so hostile. They may be allies who are after the same goal, but who disagree with the hero's tactics. Antagonists and heroes in conflict are like horses in a team pulling in different directions, while villains and heroes in conflict are like trains on a head-on collision course. Psychological function. The shadow can represent the power of repressed feelings. Deep trauma or guilt can fester while exiled to the darkness of the unconscious, and emotions hidden or denied can turn into something monstrous that wants to destroy us. If the threshold guardian represents neurosis, then the shadow archetype stands for psychoses that not only hamper us, but threaten to destroy us. The shadow may simply be that shady part of ourselves that we are always wrestling with in struggles over bad habits and old fears. This energy can be a powerful internal force with a life of its own and its own set of interests and priorities. It can be a destructive force, especially if not acknowledged, confronted, and brought to light. Thus, in dreams, shadows may appear as monsters, demons, devils, evil aliens, vampires, and other fearsome enemies. Note that many shadow figures are also shapeshifters, such as vampires and werewolves. Dramatic function. The function of the shadow in drama is to challenge the hero and give her a worthy opponent in the struggle. Shadows create conflict and bring out the best in a hero by putting her in a life-threatening situation. It's often been said that a story is only as good as its villain, because a strong enemy forces a hero to rise to the challenge. The challenging energy of the shadow archetype can be expressed in a single character, but it may also be a mask worn at different times by any of the characters. Heroes themselves can manifest a shadow side. When the protagonist is crippled by doubts or guilt, acts in self-destructive ways, expresses a death wish, gets carried away with his success, abuses his power, or becomes selfish rather than self-sacrificing, the shadow has overtaken him. Mask of the shadow. The shadow can combine in powerful ways with other archetypes. Like the other archetypes, the shadow is a function or mask which can be worn by any character. The primary mentor of a story may wear a shadow mask at times. In An Officer and a Gentleman, the drill sergeant, played by Louis Gossett Jr., wears the masks of both mentor and shadow. He is Richard Gere's mentor and second father, guiding him through the rigorous Navy training. But in terms of the life and death heart of the story, Gossett is also the shadow who is trying to destroy Gere by driving him out of the program. He tests the young man to the limit to find out if he has what it takes, and almost kills him in the process of bringing out the best in him. Another strong combination of archetypes is found in the fatal shapeshifter figures discussed earlier. In some stories, the person who starts out as the hero's love interest shifts shape so far that she becomes the shadow, bent on the hero's destruction. Femme fatale are often called shady ladies. This might represent a struggle between a person's male and female sides, or obsession with the opposite sex turned into a psychotic state of mind. Orson Welles created a classic story on this theme in The Lady from Shanghai, in which Rita Hayworth dazzles Welles's character, shifts shape, and tries to destroy him. A shadow may also wear the masks of other archetypes, Anthony Hopkins' Hannibal the Cannibal character from The Silence of the Lambs is primarily a shadow, a projection of the dark side of human nature, but he also functions as a helpful mentor to Jodie Foster's FBI agent, providing her with information that helps her catch another insane killer. Shadows may become seductive shapeshifters to lure the hero into danger. They may function as tricksters or heralds, and may even manifest heroic qualities. Villains who fight bravely for their cause or experience a change of heart may even be redeemed and become heroes themselves, like the Beast in Beauty and the Beast. Humanizing the shadow. Shadows need not be totally evil or wicked. In fact, it's better if they are humanized by a touch of goodness or by some admirable quality. The Disney animated cartoons are memorable for their villains, such as Captain Hook in Peter Pan, the demon in Fantasia, the beautiful but wicked queen from Snow White, the glamorous fairy Maleficent in The Sleeping Beauty, and Cruella de Vil in 101 Dalmatians. They are even more deliciously sinister because of their dashing, powerful, beautiful, or eloquent qualities. Shadows can also be humanized by making them vulnerable. The novelist Graham Greene masterfully makes his villains real, frail people. He often has the hero on the verge of killing a villain, only to discover the poor fellow has a head cold or is reading a letter from his little daughter. Suddenly, the villain is not just a fly to be swatted, but a real human being with weaknesses and emotions. Killing such a figure becomes a true moral choice rather than a thoughtless reflex. It's important to remember in designing stories that most shadow figures do not think of themselves as villains or enemies. From his point of view, a villain is the hero of his own myth, and the audience's hero is his villain. The dangerous type of villain is the right man, the person so convinced his cause is just that he will stop at nothing to achieve it. Beware the man who believes the end justifies the means. Hitler's sincere belief that he was right, even heroic, allowed him to order the most villainous atrocities to achieve his aims. A shadow may be a character or force external to the hero, or it may be a deeply repressed part of the hero. Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde vividly depicts the power of the dark side in a good man's personality. External shadows must be vanquished or destroyed by the hero. Shadows of the internal kind may be disempowered like vampires, simply by bringing them out of the shadows and into the light of consciousness. Some shadows may even be redeemed or turned into positive forces. One of the most impressive shadow figures in movie history, Darth Vader of the Star Wars series, is revealed in Return of the Jedi to be the hero's father. All his wickedness is finally forgiven, making him a benign, ghostly figure watching over his son. The Terminator also grows from being a killing machine bent on destroying the heroes in The Terminator to being a protective mentor to the heroes in Terminator 2: Judgment Day. Like the other archetypes, shadows can express positive as well as negative aspects. The shadow in a person's psyche may be anything that has been suppressed, neglected, or forgotten. The shadow shelters the healthy, natural feelings we believe we're not supposed to show. But healthy anger or grief, if suppressed in the territory of the shadow, can turn to harmful energy that strikes out and undermines us in unexpected ways. The shadow may also be unexplored potential, such as affection, creativity, or psychic ability that goes unexpressed. The roads not taken, the possibilities of life that we eliminate by making choices at various stages, may collect in the shadow, biding their time until brought into the light of consciousness. The psychological concept of the shadow archetype is a useful metaphor for understanding villains and antagonists in our stories, as well as for grasping the unexpressed, ignored, or deeply hidden aspects of our heroes. There it is. I thought it was apt that we begin to understand better who this shadow is, what this shadow is, internally and externally. For as we continue to move through this valley of the shadows, it is important to know what we're facing, what we're dealing with, and what the future holds as we continue to move along our own personal journeys. Because the hero's journey is not just about the ninth wave. the ninth hero is not the only type of hero. Just as you heard that there are many different types of shadows, there are definitely many different types of heroes. And we'll explore those in the future, because the stages are 12, and I've been through all 12 stages in my life over and over and over again. We all have. But to fine tune them and find a way to reach that ultimate goal of being united as a humanity, the best way that we can go about that is to understand who we are as heroes and who we are as shadows, and find a way to bring that duality into a oneness, because the duality in the end is an illusion, and we've been struggling with this for a long time. You know what's interesting? I'm learning that spiritual practice really takes time, and I've been contemplating for a very long time. Now, years have passed now. I've been contemplating the divine principle of performed patience and the art of waiting. And this thanks to the minister Zinaru, who put that seed into my mind, and it's been growing for years. And these spiritual practices, man, they take time. This is why contemplation is important. This is why meditation is important, because you're not gonna have realizations overnight. As time goes on, I realize that patience is really a master key for all of humanity, because when you're going through transitions, you need to be able to find a way to be at peace with that transition. And that transition requires time, and that time requires patience. So here we are. We are in the shadow frequencies. The sun has moved into the 56th gate, which is empowering the gene key of intoxication, enrichment, and distraction. And what an interesting coincidence that I was talking about the elixir previously, and now we have the sun that's shining through the divine essence, that light entity of intoxication. But because we're down here in the shadow frequencies, I want to look at that shadow of distraction. And man, is that important. No one can honestly say that in the world that we are living in today, that we are not bombarded right, left, up, down, in and out, all kinds of dimensions of distraction, all kinds of temptations to bring us towards distraction. And distraction is indeed definitely a shadow, because it can really wreak havoc in your life. So what I'm going to share with you today is the shadow of distraction, because the sun for now is shining through and pulsating that energy through the 56th gate and activating that DNA within us. Now, there are those who are born within these days. Just check out the chart, and there's a certain nearly 6-day period that the sun affects a certain gate, and that certain gate affects people who are born, and so they're imprinted with that. So the people who have been born within these days have the divine essence of intoxication, have the gift of enrichment, and deal with the shadow of distraction. But for now, since the gate is shining upon all of us, the sun is shining upon all of us through this gate, we have more activity within this genetic part of our code. So we can learn something from this shadow in order to be able to rise above it and get into the gifts. The 56th shadow, distraction, the world mask. As you delve more deeply into the 64 gene keys, you will begin to appreciate how these codes are interwoven across many different dimensions. As a hologenetic reflection of the cosmos in which we live, the 64 gene keys allow you to travel through the infinite reaches of your inner universe. The 21 codon rings, universal genetic groupings inside your body, are one of the greatest mysteries within the structure of your DNA. Chemically, the codons synthesize the 64 genetic triplets into groups that codify the 21 major amino acids. As archetypes, however, the codon rings reflect a mysterious symmetry at play within the universe as a whole. Within this interwoven geometry, the Ring of Trials, which includes the 12th, 33rd, and 56th gene keys, lays out the great dramatic script of evolution itself. These 3 gene keys do not code to any amino acids, but instead relate to a set of specific instructions known as stop codons. If you were to track through your own DNA, you would come to these special places every now and again in the reams of coded information that make up the fabric of your being. These 3 gene keys and the 41st gene key, known as a start codon, share a vital genetic role inside you. And there is more to them than just instructions, despite what biologists may think or see. As the building block of living matter, DNA is designed to mutate in order to continue evolving. The genetic code itself changes shape and adapts its function over great spans of time, and the gene keys also change their functioning. The 35th gene key is an example of this. It sits alone in the genome in a similar fashion to the stop and start codons, but it is very unique, as you will discover when you explore its rather unusual nature. The fact is that the 35th gene key used to function as a stop codon in a far more primitive phase of our evolution. However, this aspect of your DNA has mutated over the course of evolution, and now, at its highest frequency, it allows human beings to take a shortcut through their genetics, resulting in phenomena that we generally regard as miracles. The Ring of Trials also lends itself to such possibilities, which means we do not know what its gene keys may be capable of once they have been awakened. However, at the shadow frequency you can see exactly what they do and how they affect you. As the first of the 3 great trials, the 33rd shadow sets the pattern of your forgetting and conceals your true universal nature. This trial means you must journey through time and space across many incarnations until you come back to a memory of your greater self. The second trial, laid down by the 56th shadow, involves maintaining the illusion of your individuality by keeping you distracted through your 5 senses. As you remember more of yourself, you will come to realize the extent of your addiction to the external world, and over time you will turn your energies inward and break this powerful addiction. Finally, the 12th shadow of vanity comes at the end of your evolution. It is the last great trial and tests the depth of your surrender to the ultimate. In this trial you must give up everything you have attained in all your countless journeys, and in so doing, you will attain final transcendence. Now that we have a clearer background to this 56th gene key, we can enter more fully into the field of its transmission and learn how devastating its shadow theme of distraction can be. Let us begin with an example of the power of this distraction. Over 50% of humanity has never used a telephone. Allow the implications of that statistic to sink into your consciousness for a few moments. If that many people in the world are still distracted by issues of survival, what are the other 50% of people who are more fortunate doing about it? The answer is almost nothing. They are too distracted themselves by the minutiae of their own lives, by mortgages, telephones, restaurants, television, politics, computerization, and just about everything else you can imagine. Distraction greatly impedes evolution, but it also finally brings you into a fuller appreciation of your own misery. In the modern world, we appear almost desperate to distract ourselves from who we really are. At the same time, we now have so many distractions that we are becoming increasingly aware of the extent of our addiction. You will see below that the reactive nature of the 56th shadow is overstimulation, and this is the essence of distraction. As long as you are overstimulated through your senses, you do not have to feel your own discomfort. Overstimulation or understimulation keeps you numb. The shadow of distraction places a mask over the world, which prevents you from seeing life as it truly is. As we constantly leave our center and travel out through the 5 senses, we become victims of our material lives. Unlike many of the 64 shadows, which keep you a victim of your own thinking, the 56th shadow ensures that you will be a victim of someone else's thinking. In other words, environmental conditioning. Whether through your country's government, television, or media, or simply the belief systems of your religions, cultures, teachers, parents, or peers, the world constantly tells you how you should think. It is not surprising that we are easily distracted from our real dreams and ideals as we get washed into the belief systems of others. Distraction works on one of two ways. The most common type of distraction is outer distraction. In other words, the outer world of the senses distracts you from your inner world of feelings and the reality of the higher realms. In this respect, we tend to blame the outside world and the people in it for what happens to us, instead of realizing that our circumstances reflect our inner state. The well-known New Age epithet, "You create your own reality," is actually only half true. You do not create the actual events of your life, but you do influence their playing out through your attitude. When you blame people in the world around you, you set up a victim frequency pattern that reinforces itself over and over in your life. If, on the other hand, you are able to accept everything that happens to you regardless of whether you enjoy it or not, you set up a surrender frequency pattern that allows you to move through life with great fluidity and beauty, and your life reflects it. The other less common form of distraction is inner distraction. Inner distraction is when you are so inwardly focused that you forget the outer world. You live in a fantasy world of your own making with no real anchor in the material world. In this sense, you look through a lens whereby everything meets the criteria of your fantasy. You see what you want to see, but you do not see the truth. This is where we can see the power of the 56 Gene Keys programming partner, the 60th shadow of limitation. The 60th gene key is about the importance of structure and form, and for some people, this can seem a distraction from their fantasy. The gift of the 60th gene key is realism, which means that you must accept the present moment as it is without any projected mental overlay. The moment you become distracted from what is actually happening, you severely limit the outcome of the events taking place in the present moment. It is easy to see how the 60th shadow of limitation feeds the human need to be distracted. Whenever you feel that you are limited, it means that your mind has trapped you. Instead of freeing yourself from this discomfort through facing and accepting it, your tendency will be to run away from the feeling as fast as you can. Whether that means opening the fridge, turning on the TV, or picking up the telephone. The world mask keeps us engaged, entertained, and distracted by the dramas going on all around us, as well as within us. And, perhaps saddest of all, the world mask keeps us poor, for when we are distracted by something that simply keeps us in the same state of inert numbness, we are truly impoverished. Repressive nature. Sullen. The repressive mode of the 56 shadow is sullenness. To be sullen means to be understimulated. It is a collapsing of our spirit into a kind of numbness. This state is one often associated with teenagers, who can often enter these kinds of long-term sulks. Many adults who had difficult childhoods also find themselves victim to these dead spaces, which become entrenched as patterns in the endocrine and nervous systems. This is how the physical body over time manifests an emotional pattern through its chemistry. In adults with the 56 shadow, this repressive side can often manifest as the lemming syndrome, in which people lose sight of their true aspirations and become enslaved to the tedium of mundane lives. You can see this shadow reflected in the eyes of such people. They appear lackluster and devoid of all joy. Reactive nature. Overstimulated. The reactive side of the 56 shadow is overstimulation. This manifests as a constant need to maintain movement at all levels of one's being. There is a particular need within this shadow to satisfy the eyes and for anything to stimulate the eyes, from reading to watching television to fantasizing to traveling. These people can lead completely internal lives. On the outside, they may seem perfectly normal, but inside, they harbor all kinds of fantasies. On the other hand, these people can also lead lives that are focused only on the outer world, in denial of the inner world altogether. The 56th shadow is reflected in all behavioral patterns that allow us to avoid feeling the reality of who we are and how we currently feel. We keep moving, changing relationships, or trying new experiences. We simply do not know how to stop. There it is. The 56th shadow, distraction. From what I've read there, I see a lot of interconnectedness between what I read about the archetype of the hero's journey and what is in this 56th shadow of distraction. There's a lot of correlations there. I have now come to the end of another study session. I want to send a big shout out to the brother minister Zinaru, who is helping me to be inspired, and I'm helping him to be inspired. And so it's only right that we kind of bounce off of each other. Today he published a very timely video in which he talked about the absolute importance of supporting one another. And I was really happy and really excited to see that video, and really excited to hear the things that he shared, because it's on point. We need to really, unity consciousness is what this brother was talking about in that video. I highly encourage everyone to check that out and to understand that I'm talking about unity consciousness. The brother minister is talking about helping one another out and creating value in seeing ourselves as one. And really, that is what the gospel of hip hop is about. In my reflections in these days, in my contemplations and in my meditations, I came to something very important, because I'm studying and I'm working with the frequencies of this ninth wave and this unity consciousness. And when I thought about the gospel of hip hop and what it's really about, it's about unity consciousness. The gospel of hip hop was written for this time and for the future. When we go into this unity consciousness, we need to understand that we are one people. And that's what hip hop culture is all about, helping us to understand that we are one and we need to help one another out. What I do for you, I'm doing for me. What I do against you, I'm doing against me. So check out that video by the brother Minister Zinaru, Message from the Minister. Powerful statements, powerful energy, powerful advice, and powerful guidance. In closing, I want to express my appreciation to those people who are listening in either today or in the future. I don't know who you are, where you are, but I truly appreciate you taking the time to listen in. Until the next time, peace and much love.
If you don't like what you singing, you sing a different hook. If you don't like what you cooking, you get a different cook. If you don't like what you wearing, you get a different look. You wanna escape Armageddon? Read a different book. When knowledge is right there, we don't even look. December 2012 got this whole world shook. But look, the last days for others are the first days for us. The question to ask is, who can you trust? Respect to all that 2012 stuff, but when you really study it as fear, it don't apply to us. Yo, Hollywood lies to us all day. The question is, what does your culture say? Where's your culture at? Who's your prophet? What history guides your spiritual logic? It starts with a story, then it's hypnotic. Then any myth that comes along, you just adopt it. And why? Because your culture, you forgot it. December 2012, let's continue this topic. Turn the page. The present world age began 3,114 BC. According to the Mayan calendar, this age concludes December 21st, 2012 AD. This 5,125-year cycle of time is one world age. Nothing changes overnight. It's all a process, a transition. It happens over many days. In the Mayan calculation, a kin is 1 day. The Mayan all, that's 20 days. The tune is 360 days. The cartoon is 7,200 days. The buck tune is 144,000 days. And they applied that to the Milky Way. In the cycles they saw the sun moving across the Milky Way's equator, lining up with other galactic neighbors. We've been shifting for 30 years, it seems, from 1980 to about 2016. The shift is now, it's occurring now. But if you're learning from the movies, you won't know how to survive or stay alive after the storm. Cause after that, a new world order is born. Oh, you don't know, man, about they programs? You still watching Lindsay? You don't see that low hand? Let's go, man, the flood is coming. Don't be scared, get prepared, keep your motor running. Rock with me. Higher level. Higher level. Higher level. Higher level. Higher level. Higher level. Yep, it's all mass control. Here's the philosophy. Cortez knew about the Aztec prophecy. Before he invaded their society, he studied their culture guns and speed. So he arrived in the Aztec year of Juan Reed. That's the year Quetzalcoatl was prophesied to return from exile. In fact, Cortez played out the Aztec myth and took away those people's will to resist. Cortez played on religious beliefs and blinded the Aztecs cause he was a thief. Look, the Yucatan, that's a Mayan book of cycles. It lets the Mayans know when the gods are gonna strike you. In fact, every 13 cartoons you see, the Mayans are visited with a catastrophe. So every 256 or 7 years, the Mayan people live with this fear. So on the island of Tayasor, now Flores, the Spanish came on with this knowledge. They knew, according to the Mayan heavens, that the next cycle was 1697. So as the Mayans stood there fixed on the heavens, the Spanish showed up with all of their weapons. March 13th, 1697, the Mayan people learned a terrible lesson. Your fears and tears are used against you, cause 80% of world control is mental. But back to the Mayans, they're getting some more. 257 years after Tayasor, a US-backed coup overthrows their democracy in 1954. That's exactly 257 years from when the Spaniards arrived at their shores. I'm getting to the core of the lesson. Let's see what happens in 2211. That's the next cycle, the people remember. Like 2012 to 21st of December. Your consciousness may shift, you may turn the light, but you are the universe, you're gonna be alright. The pole may shift, your soul may lift a higher consciousness, but you know all this. The edutainment style will persist. Forget the fear, it's knowledge that runs all this. Higher level. Higher level. Mad Lion, we going up. Yo, give him that track. Mad Lions all on the track. Rock that shit. Rock that. Rocking them drums.